Hello and welcome to The Boy and the Bear. Happy New Year to our resident Celtic fan, Patrick.
Hello mate, how you doing?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. You all good?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, can't complain.
Glad to hear it. I'm sure that wouldn't have been the same if Ash did that last weekend. And speaking of which, I would say Happy New Year to our Bear, Scotty, but he's decided just not to be here at the start of 2025. It's quite typical, to be honest with you. The one-time Rangers actually win against Celtic, our resident Bear, Scotty, finds himself on a dark, snowy drive to Skye and is unable to join us for any part of this episode. But we do have a message from him, so we will play that for you a bit later on. There has been quite a few twists and turns since our last episode. Rangers were back after thrashing Celtic at Ibrox, but follow that with a typical draw away to Hibs. No such concerns for Patrick, whose team bounced back with a routine win over St Mirren, although Brendan Rodgers had some very choice words to say after the game, and there will certainly be more on that later. Patrick, how was your festive break, mate?
That was nice. Yeah, it's good to get some time off, good to recharge, ready to go. We go again for 2025 at the Boy and the Bear. It was nice. And the festive football was just a total cocktail of emotions and results. But how about you?
All good, mate. All good. Yeah, I was thinking the other day, just this is the third year of the Boy and the Bear starting.
Yeah, it is.
So a massive thank you to everybody who's made it possible up until now.
And we can say what we like about Scotty today.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we can do whatever we want. So yeah, for what we're going to start straight away, to be honest with you, Pat, on something that Scott would have had a strong opinion on had he been here, and it's the Rangers game reflection for yourself. So
yeah, Scott posted a wee video on TikTok about the Rangers game. So I suppose we'll take a clip of what he had to say here before he went viral.
Rangers 3, Celtic 0. What a performance from the boys. No one saw that coming. I didn't see it coming. I'm sure you didn't. Just turned up. It was a carbon copy of the cup final. Just pressed Celtic all over the park. And the difference between that game and this game is we'd cut out the mistakes. There was very little mistakes we made. I thought Rangers played Celtic into positions that they didn't want to play, and as a result you saw the mistakes from Scales, and just he was the trigger obviously, and just brilliant. You know, the back four was questionable. You know, everyone, question marks over Liam Kelly coming in. I thought he did very well. His distribution was excellent. The back four, Robin Proper stood up, took his goal. I mean, brilliant. Hopefully that's just kind of cements him and shows him that, you know, what it takes to be a Rangers player, and you know, and he can settle now and enjoy himself and see the best version of him. I thought Ridvan at right back was tremendous. Like, just kept Dyson Maeda at bay, kept him quiet all game. And we've not said that too often, you know. Just got to be special mention to Nico Raskin. I mean, what a performance. That is a Rangers captain's performance. He was everywhere. He was biting into tackles. He was snapping. You know, he was just everywhere. He's just putting out fires. He was intercepting. He was aggressive. He was rallying his team. It's just brilliant, and that's what you want from your captain in these games. You know, just get in about it. You know, if we can claw this back and try and put a bit more pressure on Celtic for the end of the season, I think fair play deserves a bit of credit for that. But we shouldn't be in this position. We shouldn't be 14 points behind going into the Old Firm, and now 11 points.
A few moments later.
Hello everyone, it's Scott. I'm reporting from the wonderful, beautiful island of Skye. There's really not much to say. I just think, you know, started well, got 2-0 up, and it's the same problem we have all the time. We get ahead and we just take our foot off the gas. We slow things down, we do the opposite of what got us in the lead, and it comes back to bite us in the backside. So I just hope, I've been saying this a lot, but I just hope that we can learn from that, or at least the manager can make tweaks. Hi, it's going to be another enjoyable month or so. I'm not sure my hairline or the stress levels can take watching this Rangers team, but I'll strive on, and hopefully we turn it around and we can actually start getting results away from home, because that again, that's a disaster. We're the worst away team in the league, which for Rangers to be in that position is unthinkable. So, yeah. But I'll talk to you all when I'm back from my work trip. Take care. Follow.
From your point of view, though, Pat. I mean, we had conversations after the game, but now you've had a little bit of a reflection on it. Obviously, you've had another win since then. Are you counting it as a one-off? Are you counting it as a bit of a wake-up call? How do you see it now we're more than a week past it?
I'm still pissed off. Not at the result, because you can't go a whole... Well, you can, but it's rare that you go a whole season unbeaten. And, it should be difficult to go to Ibrox and come away with 3 points or a draw. That it should be a result that you celebrate when you get it. But the performance was just out of nowhere. Maybe it had been coming when you look at the sort of... It had been getting a bit flat. The cup final, we were, a penalty kick away from losing it to Rangers. It was just the lack of fight, the lack of desire. It really took me by surprise. And also, I think a large part of it's on Rodgers. He must have been he must have been the only guy in Glasgow who couldn't have seen that Scales and Hatate were so guilty of giving the ball away literally every time they received it. I mean, I'm not saying it would have changed the result, but I think if you'd got Hatate off as soon as you possibly could, I was even calling for him to get hooked during the first half. I'm feeling a wee bit done with Hatate at the moment, to be honest.
Do you think it's down to his positioning and what he's been asked to do in the Celtic team is not really his strengths, or do you think he's just...
No, it's become that his performances have been frequently brutal. A goal against, I think it was St Johnstone aside, he's been really, really poor since the Leipzig game. And in the Leipzig game, he put on one of the best performances a Celtic player has put in Europe, but that's an outlier now. He doesn't do that every week. And these performances in big games where he's given the ball away at every touch, literally every touch. I'm not just exaggerating that for the pod. He gave the ball away every single time he received it. I think he failed to complete more passes than he actually managed to achieve. Yeah, I think he needs a long rest out of the team, but I wouldn't be gutted to see, Engels or McCowan take his place.
Well, yeah, just about to ask you on that, Pat, 'cause it's probably the position that Celtic have a little bit of a luxury in. So, in terms of you do, if for instance, if Johnson was having a shocker at right back, the drop off, regardless of what Celtic fans think of Ralston, it's a drop off. Yeah. Whereas you've got one of your record signings sitting on the bench currently, who plays in that position. You've got McGowan, who you're absolutely raving about every single time we have a podcast. So the quality is there to give these boys an opportunity to chop and change.
It's there, but do you remember a couple of months ago when I said the biggest compliment I can pay the Celtic midfield is that we don't miss Matt O'Reilly?
Miss Matt O'Reilly.
I really.
Ever since you said it as well.
I miss him so much.
I watched him playing for Brighton the other day, and
we're just that. You're right. We do have quality in midfield, but just that little bit of creative spark. The forward pass, the one that breaks the lines or slot it between two defenders. We just really miss that at the moment. And Engels, I think he was unwell for the Rangers game, and then obviously got hit in the face by a coin from a Rangers fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll let Scotty. I'll speak about that when he's here to defend himself. But yeah, he was very good against St Mirren. Engels. I thought he's a young player that's going to go through dips in form, but is started to look a lot more like the player we bought recently. But going back to the Rangers game, it was unforgivable. I think the only two players that come out with pass marks were Carter Vickers and Schmeichel. That's your one centre half and your goalkeeper, and that says it all.
From a Scales point of view, though, do you not find that a little bit ironic that he brought him on in the cup final to control the game from the back, and he was partially the reason you lost the game because he couldn't control it from the back from the start?
And very lucky not to have given away the penalty that would have won it for Rangers as well, for being honest. So
one question I also had for you, Pax, is very easy to obviously, and again, Scotty's not here to kind of back up this part of the argument, but did you see a vast improvement in our Rangers team? Or do you genuinely think there was that much of a drop-off from Celtic that allowed the fans to just get right behind that Rangers team?
I think Rangers are always going to be better at Ibrox, but they've scored 3 goals against us in the last 2 times we played them. They've definitely found a way to nullify Callum McGregor. But I was listening to another Celtic podcast, 20 Minute Tims, who are absolutely brilliant, and they made the very good point that if they're nullifying McGregor, then that should free up space for the other two midfielders. That should then mean that Bernardo and Hatate are free or freer to receive the ball and drive the ball forward or make a pass. But that didn't happen because our players were hiding. Rangers were definitely improved. Like they've shown that they can play for at least one game. But I think the Celtic performance is unforgivable. I wouldn't have minded going there, Celtic playing a lot better than that and losing the game 1-0 or 2-1 or something like that. But Kyogo's lovely offside goal was the only time we ever looked like scoring, and that's
what a finish that was, by the way.
I know, it's a shame, but that's the only highlight of a game from a Celtic perspective. I think it's the most shots Celtic have ever faced in the league.
Yeah,
stuff. It's just
and the lowest amount they've ever had in a game as well, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. So it's a really freak derby performance. I didn't see it coming. I think that's what makes it. So
I know you're saying that, right? But and I was we weren't watching it together, but I was watching it with a couple of other people. To me, it very much reminded me of the cup final without you scoring. So, like for instance, if Rangers had got that second goal in the cup final, I think it was just carbon copy for a large parts of it, because obviously you were guilty of giving the ball away in the cup final in the first half.
I think that's the difference.
No, but that's what I mean. Rangers got the second goal. If Rangers got the second goal in that cup final, it would have been very similar to the league game. I don't think you maybe would have come back. It seemed to me that Rangers maybe just didn't have the belief to go and get that, and then obviously you managed to get down the pitch and score. But
I think that's the difference, Steve, is we managed to get down the pitch.
And your manager proved his worth in that cup final as well.
And made changes. Made a change at half time, and that game at Ibrox was absolutely crying out for it. And I can't understand.
You also had your fans in the cup final.
Yeah, but there's a lot of variables, and you can allow. You can allow one bad performance a season, of course you can, but not a performance that bad in a game of that magnitude. And Rodgers said it might be because of the lead that we had. Still have.
Yeah, I was just about to come to that. First question is, which game did you enjoy more this weekend? Rangers Hibs or Celtic St Mirren?
I actually watched them both, and as a game, the Hibs Rangers game was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Great advert for Scottish football, that game.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and just Rangers doing Rangers things, isn't it? Everyone says that Hibs it, but Rangers Hibs it. Like it was
unbelievable.
Oh, you just the moment there's a smile on Scotty's face again.
They're the only club where their striking department, have been lackluster for years. The striker scores a hat-trick.
Perfect hat-trick.
And they don't win a game.
And then Rocky Bashiri scores an equaliser.
It is unbelievable. Was any part of you, genuinely, mate, any part of you concerned after the Rangers Celtic game that Rangers might mount some power, come back to the league?
No, genuinely not. I think that's the reason for the performance. I think we've been saying, I called the league back in November, I think, and the Ibrox result and performance didn't change my mind because that was such a freak performance from Celtic. If we dropped points in the St Mirren game and had a similar performance, I'd maybe be panic stations a little bit, but that's not happened. It was sort of much more like it against St Mirren. We can chalk this one down to a terrible, terrible day at the office. No, I think when you're 11 points clear, it's hard to get worried, and I honestly think that might be, it's not an excuse, by the way, but it might be the reason for that result and performance. But on at St Mirren, I thought we played really well. It was good to see Rodgers ring the changes, bringing Engels, McCowan, Ida starting up front, Trusty back in. So he recognised that the performance was bad and made the changes, and it was good to finally get the win.
It was funny because we were discussing his post-match press conference after the St Mirren game that he's
crazy, man.
I did not expect him to go for the fans the way he did.
It was
see, I mean, I'm going to let you obviously elaborate on a little bit more, being one of the people he's just had a bit of a pop at. Because he didn't try and generalise the Celtic fans. He went for all of you, to be fair.
No, it does say when you watch the...
But he covered himself. No, he covered himself once where he said, I don't mean all, but he does mean all fans, mate. Like, because he didn't say it early enough for him not to actually think that. He's maybe thought in his head when he's saying it, I should maybe say this statement.
I don't know. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt in that, but by all accounts, the stadium, like... I've got mixed feelings about it, but I want to hear what you think about it first.
I agree with every single part he says.
Even the Greg Taylor and Kieran Tierney stuff.
Yep.
Really?
I couldn't agree anymore. Listen, as Celtic fans, you've spent all this time saying, obviously, these players have created history and so on and so forth, and we might have opinions on this podcast that players might not be good enough, and to do what the Celtic, because they're not doing it to obviously insult Greg Taylor, and I understand. No one's ever.
I don't think it's got
that.
anything to do with Greg Taylor,
but it does, mate. It does, and I thought he was very candid and quite clever in the way that he put his point across. He basically said to Celtic fans, "Put yourself in Greg Taylor's shoes." The boy's obviously bust his nose. He's given everything for Celtic, regardless of what you think of his quality. Yes, Kieran Tierney might be a Celtic legend. 1, he's not signed again. 2, Greg Taylor's just been part of a 3-0 victory. And 3, obviously, Greg Taylor's got everything going on with his own contract, etc., which is in the best interest of Celtic to tie him down. Do you think Greg Taylor's more or less likely to sign a Celtic contract after that at the weekend?
So I would say that I think it's more disrespectful for Celtic to publicly pursue Kieran Tierney while Greg Taylor's having a
not publicly pursuing him. It's leaks out the club.
And
it's not publicly pursuing him, and it's also quite a difficult thing to keep secret when it's such a local player. Like if he tells 5 of his mates, one of them goes to the newspaper.
Celtic
that happens when it's local players.
They've not done anything to hush it, and they've
well, they can't do anything to hush it really. Like I see a lot, like Brendan Rodgers refused to comment on it. Like it's one of those. He's such a stature at the club that you'd be find that impossible to keep that quiet. He's not just going to rock up one day and sign.
If the news is leaking that Kieran Tierney might come back, I don't think there's any. I don't think you can blame Celtic fans for chanting Kieran Tierney is trying to encourage him to come back. Is the way I read it. Like, I think it's excitement about a fantastic player potentially returning rather than slagging Greg. If they were going to slag Greg Taylor, they'd do him.
It's not a slagging of Greg Taylor. I just really liked how Brendan Rodgers portrayed the point to where you hadn't even thought about it like that. But if you and he put himself in obviously Greg Taylor's shoes, where he said that if it was another manager that was being sung about.
But football fans sing about old players all the time. Like,
no, but not players that are returning to take someone else's position in that team.
I don't know. I think that's a really cynical view of it. Like, I think Celtic fans are allowed to be excited about Tierney coming back.
Do you know what though? Do you know what I mean? I think if he made it as a singular statement, it would seem more the blue. But he did it on the back of like because it was funny how he did it. He just literally went off the handle at Celtic fans, and then someone asked him a question about something else. It wasn't even like a follow up to that. It was a completely different subject they were trying to move on to, and then he had another pop at the fans about that.
It's clear he's been bottling it up, and I agreed with him about the explaining the way we play and how it opens up new space.
Yeah.
Like the example he gave of the Bruges game where Maida turned back.
Yeah.
You do hear the growth.
That's when you knew he'd been bottling it up, when he was able to relate that straight away.
It's a really good example, and I was listening to that and thought, fair enough. But what he didn't mention and this was the game after the Rangers game, which was an unacceptable performance, and it's the first chance for Celtic fans to air how they must have felt about the Rangers game, where it was side to side, back to back. So it's going to happen. So there's an element of like, yes, I agree with you, and I think I don't mind managers calling out the fans. Rodgers did it the first time. He said, "Listen, it's a slower build up than you're used to, but get behind." And I'm not going to throw my toys at the pram for Rodgers calling Celtic fans out, but I do think he needs to remember it's just after an unacceptable performance. And where I disagree with him is I don't think you can get on at fans for chanting the name of Tierney if he's coming back. And if he's watching the game and Tierney hears Celtic fans singing his name, could that be the thing that sways him to, sign the deal? That I think it's a pro Kieran Tierney chant rather than an anti Greg Taylor chant. And I think
it's not going to make any difference, though, is it?
Well, in that case, it's not a big issue, is it? They could slag. I don't know.
He's also doing it for behind closed doors reasons as well. He'll be doing that so that he's showing Greg Taylor he's so far behind him because he wants Greg Taylor to sign a contract because then he's an asset to Celtic. And they want that.
No,
they want that.
I've not got a problem with Rodgers sticking up for Taylor as well, and I also think Taylor's been a great player for Celtic. But
Kieran Tierney's a level above when he plays. Listen, everybody knows that. And I think
if they were chanting about Henrik Larsson, Kyogo's not going to spit the dummy out, is he?
No, but Henrik Larsson's not going to come back and play for Celtic, is he, and take his position?
I'd take him.
Listen, the other thing as well I thought was quite amusing is I think I was trying to cast my mind back. I think it is around a year ago. and you weren't the only one, so I'm not calling you out like Brendan Rodgers, that you were asking for Brendan Rodgers' head, and then within the space of a year, he's in a strong enough position where he is able to have a very strong view on how the fans are acting in the stadium.
I wasn't
think that's
calling
a bit
for him
strange.
I wasn't calling for his head, but I was saying I think he has to go if this continues. Kind of just say, 'cause after we got beaten 2-0 at Hearts at home, I said I wouldn't surprise if he goes. I wouldn't mind if he goes. I was wrong. But yeah, I think he's obviously this is pent up frustration from Rodgers, and I think it might be also his reaction to the Rangers game bleeding through as well. He must have seen the reaction to it online or offline about how bad Celtic were that day. And I think every so often, he's got an ego too. He wants to set the record straight and say, listen, look at everything I've achieved. I've won a cup last month. We're still in the
best position in Europe,
the Champions League.
Yep.
And that's all fair enough. And I don't mind him telling the Celtic fans to, well, shut up.
It's a little bit of needle as well, isn't it? It creates a little bit of but it's positive or negative energy. It creates a little bit of energy around the club that's probably needed because, like
the
you
manager
said,
has to stick up for Taylor. I understand that. I think calling out the fans about the Tierney chant is a bit out.
Oh.
But the sentiment of everything else he was saying, as in when we play it back, that's not because we're being defensive. Is fair enough.
Also, Celtic fans have. I understand the kind of circus that's kind of following this Kieran Tierney story a little bit. As a neutral, I'm kind of struggling on it a little bit, to be honest with you, Pat. Like, I understand he's a legend of the club. I understand he's only 27 years old. I absolutely understand, just for clarity's sake, before we go on with this, when Kieran Tierney plays football and he's fit, he's one of the best left backs around. And that's not just at a Scottish level, it's a Premier League level. Yes, he might struggle in the new systems down south, which is why he's obviously part of the reason he's reported to be coming back to Celtic. But you must be concerned from a Celtic fan's point of view that, one, he's not on the wages he was on before, so I imagine he'll be on higher wages. And two, his injury record just means he cannot play the level of games that he's required to play. And thirdly and finally, he's not a striker, he's not a winger, he's not a number 10, he's not someone who's going to... He's not a Mo Salah sort of figure, if you get what... It's not as if you're bringing a player like that back. At the end of the day, you are bringing back a very good left back. Do you think it is a good signing for Celtic long term?
Yeah, but it's the same caveat I'd say to any signing is a risk, but this one is a bigger risk because of his injury record. But if you ask any Celtic fan, would you take Kieran Tierney back? They're all, I think 95% of them are going to say yes, but that doesn't mean I'm not concerned about the injury profile. And part of me wonders if maybe that's why Rodgers was so annoyed at the chanting of his name. Maybe the deal fell through and maybe we're going to need Greg Taylor.
Even if it doesn't fall through with Kieran Tierney's injury record, you probably will need Greg Taylor.
That's exactly it. No matter what happens, we're going to need, if Tierney comes, you're going to need a high quality left back.
Yeah.
Because Tierney's not going to play the Cal McGregor token of 65, 70 games a season. He's not going to do that, regardless of who the backup left back is. So if Taylor goes, we're still going to need another left back. Yep. I think we're quite close to selling Bernabe, who was out on loan. There's talk of even getting as much as we paid for him back, so 4 million.
Staggering.
That should cover a good chunk of the Tierney wages initially. I think Tierney is a fantastic signing, but I think it's with the aim to play him in games against Rangers and the Champions League in particular, and not force him to play against Ross County on a Wednesday night and then Dundee United on a Saturday and then Motherwell the next game Tuesday.
But for the level of wages he's going to be on, Pat, you'll put that. And listen, we could be getting this totally wrong. It could be performance based, it could be appearance based wages and etc. He's on. He might just, and I'm not doubting him. He probably is doing it for the love of the club, and I understand that. But if he's on, say for instance, and again these won't be factual figures, but say he's on 50 grand a week. If you're on 50 grand a week, mate, at Celtic, you need him to be playing every game to justify those wages.
But I think you're also thinking, Cal McGregor's 31, 32. He's maybe got another 2 years at his peak, or before he starts to really slide off. After that, there's not that homegrown, player who, in inverted commas, gets it. Tierney is that. So maybe it's with a view of like the off-field captain in the club.
Yeah, but even off-field, mate, he's going to have to be on a training pitch. He's not going to have to be in a physio's room.
It's a gamble. But I would ask you. Imagine it's a little bit like John Souttar at Rangers, where he's had a history of injury problems, constant ankle worries or calf strains, but then you do get that season and a half out of him. If we got a season and a half, or even 1 season, or even 6 months of Kieran Tierney at his very best, you're not going to turn it down.
Well, yeah, if it's on a 4-year contract.
I don't know.
I mean, John Souttar's missed the last 2 Old Firm games. He missed the final, and then he missed the last one. Like, do you know what I mean? Those are massive games for Rangers, for a player.
I guess because he was playing every week, wasn't he? And it's going to require.
He's playing every week because every game is important to Rangers. You aren't going to be winning the league every year. Like, if Kieran Tierney comes back, if Rangers are, it's funny saying it, if Rangers are back next season,
that's a big if.
It is, mate. But say if Brendan Rodgers might need him every game because he's the best option, he might push him too far. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's where it comes down to careful management.
Yeah, and listen, there's no
bit. You need someone like Greg Taylor.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, mate. But Greg Taylor's also going to be asking for the wages that he deserves, because we had this conversation as well. And that's probably where the arguments comes down to. So you could be paying the best part of 60, 70 grand a week on left back wages between the two of them, and you've got 1.5 left backs. Sometimes to me, it would be a great sign for Scottish football. I would love it from a neutral point of view. It would be one of the better players back in Scotland. I really hope that sorts, and there's no better manager from than Brendan Rodgers. I'm not disputing any of that. I'm a great admirer of Kieran Tierney. I'm not having a pop at him at all. I just think from a Celtic point of view, financially, for a club that the fans get on the back of, for the board mismanaging things or not spending money when they should be, to put that wage back into Kieran Tierney, to me just seems a little bit.
Can you imagine the wrath of the fans, though, if it leaked that we had the chance to sign Tierney, and this still might happen?
No, deal with that. Deal with that. No. I'm going to be straight to the point. If that happens, get a grip of yourself. Like the board should be above that. Like that would happen at every. If every club was run like that, mate, your club would be in the bin. So the board need to make sensible financial based decisions. That's their job, mate. It's not to jump on fandom. But I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I genuinely hope I'm wrong. I hope Kieran Tierney comes back. Hope he wins Player of the Season. Hope he I love Kieran Tierney. I'm just saying, it just doesn't.
It represents a gamble.
Yeah.
But if Celtic must be confident that they can help nurse him back to fitness, otherwise they wouldn't be. Because I don't think they are that club that would surrender to fan power for Tierney. They've proved that in the past. They're certainly not bullied into making signings. So they must have reasonable confidence that Tierney is good enough to come back. And listen, if Celtic do sign him, we get our best out of him, you're getting an Arsenal level left back to play in the SPFL and the Champions League. It's an incredible signing.
Any part of you thinks he's using it to get fit for another season and then go again from a resale value, or do you think he's back for good?
I think if Tierney comes back,
it's
with a long-term view to captain the club, probably
going to coaching and stuff for
McGregor. Yeah. I think it's a great move for him if he can make it work, because like we always say, like if you've made your money at Arsenal, why would you go to Brentford?
Oh, listen,
come to Celtic.
One thing I would say is it is refreshing to see that a player who probably could still get a game in a lot of Premier League teams wants to just come home and wants to come to his home club. Like, so kudos to him. It's absolutely no slant on him. It's just from a Celtic point of view, it's just a little bit looking at it from a numbers point of view and how many games he can actually play in a season. Yeah, it's
it'll be interesting to see, but it's I think it's a should signing.
Yeah.
If it happens, it's still an Arsenal player.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping, and I'd imagine that will be on our TikTok channel. I don't know if you've had a chance to see any of the comments back to Scotty's little segment they did the other day.
Yeah, I love that he's been replying to all the Rangers fans on behalf of the podcast. I'm like, sorry. It's just so everyone knows. If you get a reply from the boy in the Bear Pod, it might not be from the boy.
Yeah. And he just ignored all the Celtic ones as well, which is the best bit.
God love him.
Yeah. But speaking of which, we've done a couple of videos on TikTok now, and going exceptionally well. So you will certainly be seeing more of our content on there. You can follow us on there at the Boy Bear Pod. So go and check us out, and just make sure that you leave a Rangers-based comment if you'd like a reply from us.
And also make sure that you type in boy with an H, because when we were setting it up, there is another channel called The Boy and the Bear, and it is like a boy who really likes bears. So, like,
I mean, follow that channel if you want.
yeah, follow that as well.
Yeah, crack on.
If you want Celtic and Rangers related content, then Boy with an H.
Yeah. Well, listen, we'll leave it there. You have been listening to a special episode of The Boy and the Mediator, because
It's not a special episode, really. It's just Scott's not here.
That's special to me, mate. Yeah. If you've got any
Still
questions
The Boy and
for
the Bear, though.
yeah, if you've got any questions for our next podcast, you can email us at theboyandthebear@gmail.com, and please share this podcast with your mates on any group chats that you have. As I said, you're able to follow us on TikTok, but we are also on Instagram at BoyBearPod, and our YouTube channel, where our live videos are now going, is at the Boy and the Bear Podcast.
Hail, hail.
I'm not going to do the follow.